After nearly 6 years of marriage to Benjamin Clark, the man I once thought I'd grow old with, something shifted. His warmth faded slowly, like a song playing from a distance until it was barely audible. By our final year together, we weren't lovers, not even friends, just two strangers under the same roof, sharing a bed that felt colder with every passing night. I lived in a quiet town outside Charleston, South Carolina, a place where summer heat clings to your skin and memories seem to echo through every corner of the house. I was a freelance writer, juggling motherhood and manuscripts while trying to pretend everything was still okay. But silence has a way of becoming unbearable. One evening, I finally confronted Benjamin, not with screams, but with quiet, deliberate words. He didn't deny it. In fact, he looked relieved. "Don't worry," he said softly. "I'll take care of it. She's still so young. I can't waste her time." That sentence shattered everything. 6 years of marriage, 8 years of us. And in the moment I discovered his betrayal, his biggest concern wasn't me. It was her youth. Benjamin's 35th birthday should have been simple. A quiet surprise, a reminder that I still cared. He had flown out to Atlanta for a business conference, and I thought maybe if I showed up at his hotel with his favorite cake and gifts, we could feel something again. Anything. I arrived unannounced, heart pounding, arms full of little things I knew he loved. But when he opened the door, he didn't smile. He didn't even reach for the bag in my hands. His eyes flicked behind me, then back, panic masked under a strained calm. "I thought you were Scarlett," he muttered, brushing past me like I wasn't even there. Scarlett, his new assistant. The name hung between us like a blade. Inside, the room smelled like roses. A fresh bouquet sat on the coffee table next to a pair of unopened VR glasses, the exact model I had spent hours tracking down for him. I didn't need to ask. I already knew. He rushed into the bathroom without explanation, and I sat alone, watching the cake start to melt in the humid Georgia air. That chocolate ice cream cake was his favorite. I had driven an hour to get it, waited in line, and now it sat there, sweating, dying like I was. He finally returned, acting like nothing was wrong. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, reaching for the cinnamon rolls I'd made, the handmade card Lily had drawn. "You even got the headset. I love this model." I cut him off. "Did you delete everything from your phone?" His face froze. "What are you talking about?" I gripped the edge of the couch until my nails ached. "Don't pretend," I whispered. "You were in the bathroom too long. You deleted something." Benjamin's face barely changed. He tilted his head. "I told you, the gifts were from co-workers. You're overthinking this." Overthinking, that word broke me. I had spent years trying to believe him, defending him, making excuses for the distance, the late nights, the quiet dinners where he barely looked at me. Now, all I could see was the truth staring back. His calmness wasn't innocence. It was indifference. He didn't beg. He didn't deny. Instead, he spoke like I was his confidant, telling me how Scarlett reminded him of me when I was younger, how thoughtful she was, how she brought him coffee every morning, how she admired him. And finally, with no shame at all, he said, "She's still so young. I don't want to waste her time." That was it. I stood, lifted the untouched glass of water on the table, and threw it in his face. He didn't flinch. "I didn't want this to happen either," he said, wiping his cheek. I walked to the door. But before I left, I turned, looked him dead in the eye, and slapped him. Twice. Outside, the storm had passed. But inside me, a hurricane had just begun. It was almost midnight when I found myself sitting alone on the floor of our bedroom, drenched in silence. Lily was asleep. The house was dark, heavy with heat and heartbreak. I had told Benjamin to leave, but he hadn't signed the divorce papers. He claimed nothing had happened, that I was imagining things. But deep down I knew I needed confirmation, something concrete, not just instinct, not just the way his eyes lingered when he spoke about Scarlett, not just the bouquet, the gifts, the look on his face when I surprised him in Atlanta. I needed truth. So I got up and started searching. Benjamin had a habit of upgrading his iPhone every year. He always left the old ones in drawers, still logged into everything, never bothering to reset them. And just like that, I found one, tucked behind a stack of books in his office. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. It took seconds to open his WhatsApp. Her name flashed on the screen. Scarlet White. He had saved her as Minnie, with a mouse emoji. Because of course, she loved Disney. I scrolled, heart racing, through 3 years' worth of messages. 3 years. That meant he had been talking to her while I was pregnant with Lily, while I was setting up our new home, picking out furniture, walking through stores with swollen feet and a tired back. And there it was, a message dated the same Saturday I remembered so vividly. Benjamin, thank you again for helping me with my thesis. I don't know what I would have done without you. Please let me take you out to dinner this weekend. My treat. That Saturday, I had been 6 months pregnant, juggling contractors and shopping lists. He told me he had a work emergency. I believed him. I even made dinner, thinking we'd eat together when he came home. Instead, he had been with her. That night, I sat on the couch, fanning his face with a book when the power went out. I remember how he smiled, kissed my belly, and said, "I'm so lucky to have you." And now, knowing what I know, he had said that after spending the day with another woman. Every sweet memory was now coated in rot. I kept reading. She reminded him to eat breakfast. He called her his little star. They talked about movies, dinners, inside jokes. He helped her land jobs, edited her resume, celebrated her wins more than he had ever celebrated mine. He had built an entire secret relationship right under my nose, one that bloomed quietly while our marriage withered. And worst of all, she adored him, idolized him, thought he was her hero. By the time I closed the phone, my hands were shaking. I wasn't angry anymore. I was hollow. I had built a life with a man who had slowly, methodically given his heart to someone else and left me clinging to shadows. The next morning, I didn't leave my room. The messages haunted me like ghosts. Every word, every emoji, every shared moment between Benjamin and Scarlett sliced through me. He had given her the version of him I used to know, the man who stayed up all night to proofread my essays in college, who memorized my coffee order, who once cried when Lily was born. I kept asking myself, how long had that Benjamin been gone? And how long had I been pretending not to notice? Later that day, I called my best friend Grace and asked her to take Lily for a few days. I needed time, space, and silence. That evening, my parents showed up without warning. My mother, Ellen, walked into the house like she still had authority. "Sweetheart, I heard about what happened. But, in a long marriage, people make mistakes. Maybe you should think this through. You don't even have a stable job." I stared at her, numb. My father, Raymond, sat in the corner, lighting a cigarette. Silent, watching, judging. "So I'm incapable of surviving without a man," I said. My mother sighed. "You're being emotional." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "No, I'm being honest." The words that followed hit harder than Benjamin's betrayal. "If you throw Benjamin away," my mother muttered, "don't expect to find someone else willing to put up with someone like you." I stood, walked to the door and opened it. "You're kicking us out now," she barked. "If you're not here to support me, then yes," I said calmly. Then my father spoke, his voice cold, final. "Whether you live or die isn't our concern anymore." The silence that followed broke something in me, but not in the way I expected. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I smiled. "Then I suggest you both remember this moment when you're old and need someone to take care of you." He scoffed. "You think you can threaten me?" "No," I replied, my voice like glass. "I just want you to know how it feels to be discarded." For the first time in my life, they had nothing to say. Growing up, I had always known I was unwanted. My mother suffered complications giving birth to me, and after that, she couldn't have more children. My father never forgave her, or me. He resented having a daughter, treated me like I was some burden he couldn't shake. And still, I tried. I tried to be good. I got straight A's. I earned scholarships. I worked side jobs to pay for school while he gambled away what little money we had. That night, sitting on the bathroom floor with hot water pouring over me, I remembered it all. The beatings, the screaming, the blood. And I realized something. I had survived them. I had survived everything. So why was I still letting Benjamin break me? I wasn't that fragile girl anymore, and this time I wouldn't stay. By the end of that week, I had already hired a lawyer. The divorce papers sat quietly on the dining table, neatly stacked beside Benjamin's untouched breakfast. I had cooked out of habit, not care. When he walked in and saw the documents, his face twisted, not with guilt, not even sadness, but disbelief. "A divorce?" he scoffed. "Is this really necessary?" I didn't flinch. "It's already done. You just need to sign." He pushed the folder away. "We've been together for years, and you want to throw that away just because you assumed something happened." I never slept with Scarlett. I stared at him, my voice sharp. "So emotional betrayal doesn't count." He reached for my shoulder. I stepped back. "Don't touch me, Benjamin." Still, he wouldn't sign. He told me to think it over, to calm down, that we could talk later. But I had already done the talking. Now, it was time for action. So I did what he never expected. I showed up outside Scarlett's office. I didn't have to say a word. Just standing there was enough to send shockwaves through his carefully constructed life. He arrived within 30 minutes, panic written across his face. "What are you doing here? Are you trying to ruin her life?" I crossed my arms. "Are you that worried about her? More than the wife you betrayed?" He tried to grab my arm. I yanked it away. "Sign the papers," I said calmly, "or I'll be back every day." That was when Scarlett cracked. She came down from the building before I even stepped inside. Eyes red, lips trembling, she turned and ran like some tragic heroine in a cheap drama. Benjamin turned to me furious. "Are you happy now?" Before I could answer, a woman from the building stepped out and smiled at me. "Ms. Bennett, Mr. Carter is ready to discuss your marketing proposal. He's waiting upstairs." Benjamin blinked. "Marketing proposal." I smiled sweetly. "I've been consulting for his firm. But don't worry. Scarlett and I might run into each other again, often." That afternoon, Benjamin's messages blew up my phone. "Please stop. She didn't do anything wrong. You're ruining her career." I responded only once. "Funny how she's feeling pressure when, according to you, she's done nothing wrong." Days passed, and the whispers at Scarlett's office spread like wildfire. The poor little mistress couldn't handle the shame. One night my phone rang. It was Benjamin. His voice was low, almost hollow. "Scarlett tried to harm herself. Are you happy now?" I sat in silence for a long moment. Then I replied, "I didn't do this." "You did." He didn't speak after that. The next morning, I walked into the hospital, handed him the divorce papers again. This time, he signed. No more begging, no more bargaining. He scribbled his name, shoved the folder back at me, and muttered, "You're heartless." I tucked the papers into my bag and walked away without looking back. I wasn't heartless. I was free. Life after Benjamin was quiet at first, unnervingly so. No more gaslighting. No more silence at the dinner table. No more pretending that everything was fine when I was slowly dying inside. I thought I'd feel broken, but instead, I felt something unexpected. Peace. I rebuilt slowly. I started taking freelance projects again. Content writing, copy editing, brand campaigns. Money was tight at first, but it came. And with every invoice paid, I felt a little more whole. Lily was the only reason I kept going in those early days. Her laugh in the morning, the way she held my hand so tightly when we crossed the street. The way she whispered, "I love you more than the moon," before bed. One day, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My hair was tied up in a loose bun. My eyes tired but fierce. I looked older maybe, but I didn't look lost anymore. I looked free. But freedom came at a cost. My mother, Ellen, began calling more frequently, sometimes dropping off groceries or little gifts for Lily. Other times, she left voicemail messages laced with guilt. "You're still young, Ashley. Lily needs a father figure. Don't you think it's time you moved on?" I answered one of her calls one evening. "Mom," I said calmly, "I am moved on. But what about your future, your retirement? Who's going to take care of you?" I almost laughed. "You mean like how you and Dad took care of me?" There was silence on the other end. I knew it stung, but I didn't regret it. The truth was, I had been her retirement plan for years. I paid her bills, covered her medications, but beyond that, I owed her nothing more. Where was she when I cried myself to sleep in that marriage? Where was she when Dad said I was worthless? The truth is, some parents don't raise you. They survive through you. They mold you into something useful, not someone loved. And when you stop being useful, they turn cold. Not Lily. She was my mirror, my joy, my reminder that love, real love, is given freely, not earned. I didn't want her to grow up and become another woman like me, carrying generational trauma like it was some inherited debt. So I chose to stop the cycle. I taught Lily that her voice mattered, that her tears weren't weakness, that she didn't have to accept the bare minimum from anyone. Benjamin was still allowed to see her. He was her father. As long as he remained respectful, I never stood in the way. But our conversations were short, formal, and strictly about Lily. He noticed the change in me, of course. Once he even muttered, "You've become so cold." But he was wrong. I hadn't gone cold. I just stopped setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. The day I remarried was nothing like my first wedding. There were no floral arches, no over-the-top cake, no promises made under the gaze of people who didn't truly care. This time it was a small garden ceremony, just a few close friends. Lily, standing proudly in a pale yellow dress, held the bouquet. And there he was, Lucas. He was younger than me by 4 years, thoughtful to the core, and nothing like Benjamin. He never tried to control me, never tried to fix me. He simply listened, held space for my pain without trying to bury it. And when he loved me, it wasn't out of obligation or convenience. It was choice. Every day, always a choice. The first time Lucas met Lily, he didn't try to impress her. He just sat on the floor, cross-legged, building a Lego tower with her in silence. That moment spoke louder than any grand gesture Benjamin had ever made. We built something different, quiet, steady, rooted in truth. Benjamin, meanwhile, disappeared from our lives. Not by force, but by his own doing. He spiraled, chasing validation through bad decisions, until eventually his world collapsed. I heard about his prison sentence from a mutual acquaintance. 10 years, theft, trafficking. And strangely, I didn't feel satisfaction, only silence. Scarlett. She got married, divorced, and then resurfaced to tell me I had ruined her life. I just smiled. I no longer needed to fight back. I had already won the only battle that mattered, the one within myself. As for my parents, they eventually stopped calling. Maybe they grew tired of trying to guilt me into saving them. Maybe they finally realized I never would. But I didn't hate them anymore. I just accepted that they would never be who I needed them to be. And I stopped waiting for them to apologize. The real healing came not when I found love again, but when I found myself again. I started waking up with a sense of peace. Some mornings, Lily would sneak into my bed and curl up beside me. She'd whisper, "You're the strongest person I know." That's when I knew I was doing something right. I didn't need Benjamin's approval. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't even need closure. I had my freedom. I had my daughter. I had a man who didn't complete me because I was already whole, but who walked beside me, step for step. Most importantly, I had me, a version of myself I fought like hell to reclaim. So no, this isn't a story of heartbreak. It's a story of becoming. And if you've ever been broken, betrayed, or belittled by people who should have loved you, let me say this clearly. You are not the pain they gave you. You are the strength you found after. If there's one thing life has taught me, it's this. Love should never cost you your voice. The moment I stopped trying to fix a broken man, a broken marriage, or a broken childhood, I began to heal. For years I convinced myself that silence was strength, that enduring pain made me noble. But the truth? Real strength lies in leaving when love becomes a burden. I used to think forgiveness meant staying. Now I know forgiveness is choosing peace, even if it means walking alone for a while. We often tell women to be patient, to sacrifice, to hold the family together, but no one tells them you are enough, on your own. The life I have now didn't come from luck. It came from burning bridges that were never meant to carry me and building new ones with my own hands. So to anyone reading this who feels like they're drowning in someone else's story, write your own.